The following is a KPB MediaWorks production.
Choose your fighter.
Hello, guys. We are back. This is Rodimus Prime, aka Rodney. We are back for another episode of KPBCast. And here today, coming from the West Coast, we have Miranda Pakozdi, aka Super Yan. Miranda, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a nice Wednesday morning. The weather is finally cleared outside, so
It must be crazy out there. I mean, we hear about the fires and stuff like that. How are you guys managing out there with that atmosphere?
it's hard. Yeah. California's we've always had wildfire season around this time, like around fall. It gets really hot and dry, and sometimes there's winds, and it just carries the whole forest fire across a large amount of land. I tweeted about it. My dad's neighborhood actually burned down in the Santa Cruz fire. Yeah, it's been really bad. His house is mostly able to be recovered, but it's affected a lot of people here, and it's way worse than it's ever been. I don't want to start out with something negative.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I just wanted to touch base on that, but hope everything works out well for you guys over there, and that you guys can be back.
We're
to
safe.
normal.
Yeah, me and Andrew are safe. So
Awesome. So, let's talk about Miranda. Let's take the FGC out of your personality for a second. Who is Miranda?
Okay.
What are you about? Where did you grow up? What's your upbringing like?
Upbringing. I mean, it's hard to take FGC out. I've been playing for so long. Before casually, and then competitively, and now I'm kind of stepping on it just a little bit. But I guess before that, I've always played games. I've always we had an Atari. We were kind of spoiled. So my dad liked games. He liked computers. He's a huge nerd. We were the first person on our block to ever have a computer. So kids would come over and play what we had. We had Sega Genesis, PlayStation 2. So I'd play all kinds of stuff. That's how I got my hands on Tekken 2, which was my first fighting game. We got to rent 2 games. Me and my sibling would rent 2 games every Friday. So we rented Mortal Kombat. We rented all kinds of other fighting games. But outside of fighting games, I play a lot of other stuff. And my whole life, my biggest hobby is video games. So one of the biggest things is music games. I played those competitively as well as casually for longer than I've played fighting games. Since I was, I want to say, 1999, however old I was in 1999. And MMOs and shooters. I played a lot of Overwatch when that came out. I played a ton of Ultima Online, which was the first. I don't know if anyone's heard of that.
Yes,
I realize
heard
a lot
of
of
that.
younger people know. I played Ultima Online when I was 10 years old, and that was the first MMO that ever existed. I played EverQuest. I didn't get deep into WoW or 11, and I know those are a lot of people's favorites. I play 14, Final Fantasy 14 a whole lot now. It's like my go-to game. While fighting games are kind of taking a back seat. It's unfortunate because from I want to say 2005 to 2017, maybe 18. Fighting games are my life, and with COVID now, it's like kind of it's hard. A large part of I don't know if I'm getting ahead of what you want to talk about, but a large part of what I love about fighting games is the community and going to events and competing. That's the fun part for me, meeting up with friends. And of course, right now that's not even possible.
Yeah, we're all missing
even
that.
before then, I had myself finding trouble, or I found myself having trouble connecting to a fighting game the way I did Tekken 5, Tekken 6, and Street Fighter 4, and then Sam Show. Those are my games. Those, I'd say 4 are my games, especially Street Fighter 4. Throughout its duration, was when I was probably deepest in and really, really into the community. And finding that again in Sam Show, I really, really loved that game. But again, netcode and just not being able to meet up, and then having a kind of scattered community. I would love to see things change, events being possible first of all, but also just in netcode being better, carrying the community better, especially right now. I know King of Fighters OTUM got rollback recently. I don't know if
Yes.
you can hear buttons slamming. Hopefully
No,
not.
no, I
But
don't. I
right
don't
behind this wall, there's someone playing King of Fighters 12 hours a day. um, so hopefully you can't hear that. But yeah, I want to see more games, more companies follow suit. I know Japan's a little stubborn. A lot of their developers don't either think it's important to understand or mostly don't have the resources. I'm not sure what the reasoning is behind it. But our games don't have it, and hopefully they will. It's a huge thing because I played Sam Show a lot online because I loved the game, and it was just so difficult for me to feel like I'm making progress learning when I feel like I can't play the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Right. You're dealing
That's
with
how it feels.
online tech that doesn't work in real life, and a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
assorted
and
things.
I'm calling out Sam Show because that's the game I played recently. But like every game almost every game has this problem. Every game that doesn't have rollback, every game that has poor netcode, poor lobbies. There's a plethora of issues. It goes beyond netcode sometimes, but yeah, like the thing that I loved was like, my first Evo is 2006, and and I remember going there with a group of friends, and I knew what it would be, but like I didn't know how fun it would be. Like this is before I drank or smoked too, and I don't even know if I was legally allowed to at the time, but I didn't. So I wasn't there for Vegas. I was there just for video games, and it was the most fun I had in my life, and I know Evo's changed over the years, but I was like, I want to go to more events. I want to hang out with friends. I want to play. I want to compete and see how far I get, and I went to like every major I could after that for that time. So
No, that's great. That's great. That's a good in-depth intro that kind of like gives you a summary of who you are as a whole. But I want to get back to like the humble beginnings, right? So you have a little privilege. You got some systems. What were your first like favorite systems? Like what did you get into?
PlayStation.
PlayStation.
Oh,
Okay.
PlayStation for sure. I
That's your
played
first
PC
favorite?
too.
Okay, PC. All right.
Favorite system of all time, PlayStation 2.
Okay. All right.
If we're comparing like how they were for their time,
Mhm.
PlayStation 2, I really liked Xbox 360 too. I
Yes.
know most people. And then this might not really hit the answer for this question, but like the arcade's not a system, but like
Right.
most of my very favorite games are arcade games. I have been an arcade rat like my whole life, and that includes music games, which are a huge part of my life,
And
and
we're
are
going
only
to get into
available in the
that.
arcade.
We're definitely going to get into music games. What was your arcade scene like? Like when you started hanging out arcades?
I was born and raised in San Jose, and I grew up in South Bay, so I had access to some of the best arcades, in the country.
Yes.
Our NorCal had a huge scene. SoCal had a huge scene. SoCal was accessible. I had a car. I liked driving. I drove up and down the country or the state so many times to visit folks in SoCal, Super Arcade, Arcade Infinity. And then, I know other communities have their arcades, but we have multiple. We had a lot of people who were really dedicated. People would drive 2 hours on a weekday night to come to Sunnyvale Golfland to play Tekken, and hang out until 1 a.m. afterwards and talk about it, that kind of stuff. And that's so the arcade scene's amazing up here. And even outside of that, we had so the first time I think I actually got into the community, like started talking to people about the games instead of just showing up the arcade scared. I had a game. I had for Tekken 5 DR. They had the controller port at the arcade.
Yes.
So when I went to the arcade to play music games, I saw, I'm like, oh, they have Tekken. I played that. I want to play it again. And I'm scared to use the arcade stick. I have any experience with that at home. As playing PlayStation 2, I used the pad. This might be the first time anyone who knows me hears that I used to be a pad player, but I might be exposing myself as a pad player, but I don't care. And I think it's very, very viable solution for Tekken. It's nothing strange, but
Yes.
I was less scared to play at the arcade because I could use the pad. I knew how to use that. And so I'd still do terribly and get destroyed because NorCal, especially at the time, had a lot of our strongest players. I'd run into them, get just completely destroyed, but still love playing my character, playing the game, rediscovering it kind of. And another reason to go because, lines at the arcade for music games are incredibly long. It can be like an hour or two before you get to play. So I'd be like, if I can hop into Tekken and play and die and then come back real quick, I'll do that. And so I did that for years, and I got better. I think it was Tekken 6 didn't have the pad port anymore, so I kind of just took a deep dive into learning the stick, and it was very, very easy. I play Ling Xiaoyu. She doesn't require, any crazy inputs. Her combos are very easy, at least at the time. I don't know about Tekken 7, but yeah, and so I'd go to the arcade, play music games, play Tekken, and not super take it seriously. I would just kind of go there and mash and have fun, and then not talk to anyone really and leave. I'd see the same faces, and so there was these CVS2 guys, and named Brian and Junior, and this was back. This had to have been like 2006, probably 2006, I think. They maybe 2007. They'd see me and they're like, "You play fighting games, and there's a lot of places people play casuals, right? Like you can play more and learn and talk to these guys." And I was like, "I don't know, I'm scared." I'd blow these guys off for like months. They keep inviting me. I'm like, "These guys are weird. Like I don't know them, and they're inviting me to their house to play. Like I'm good." And I was like pretty young at the time too, so I was like, "I'm good, right?" And then they're like, they were so persistent for like 3 months. They're like, "You gotta come. Like the guys will love you. Like there's chicks that hang out there too. It's not weird, And I was like, all right, whatever. I want to get better at fighting games. I want to check this out. So at the time, Tekken didn't have a console release. So going to this person's place to play casuals meant that I'd be hanging out with like CVS2 players, Third Strike players, Marvel players. This guy had a bunch of candy cabs. And this was Keystone 2. So I go up there, I show up there. I don't know if you know Keystone 2, but it was run by this guy, Albert. And,
Was that the one
name drop
ran out of a garage?
Yeah. It ran out of a shack. It was a backyard and a shack.
Yeah.
And then it graduated into a garage, and then he moved a couple of times. He kept it going. I want to name drop, but like pretty much every good player in NorCal played at Keystone 2.
Yes, I'm very well with that. Yeah. I think it was featured on King of Chinatown, I think, for a bit. Definitely. I think that's when some of you guys met Justin Wong before he moved over and became a permanent resident. And so, yeah.
Yeah, the first time I remember like during that it was a GameStop like tournament when like Street Fighter 4 was released. It was in San Francisco. All those players came to Keystone, or most of those players came to Keystone the day before to hang out and play casuals. I met Punko there. It was like really random, and that was still at that time. I still didn't play Street Fighter yet, so I know these Street Fighter players, old school Capcom players like CVS2, Third Strike. I kind of knew that whole community, and I still didn't play Street Fighter yet. So when Street Fighter 4 came out, I wasn't super excited about it because I didn't think the game looked cool. Visually, and I knew it was fun. People played it, and we had a strong scene in NorCal, and people were offering to help me learn. But I didn't pick it up. I didn't pick it up until around AE, actually. I played during AE, and I loved it. I picked up Barlog and I played him the whole way through, and he was fun. But yeah, in the beginnings, it was just, these random guys at the arcade invited me to a session, and a session happened to be Keystone, where I just completely got sucked into the community there, because it was already very strong. It was very easy to be, because everyone there was really cool, friendly, and a great resource for me if I wanted to if I had questions to learn. Because when I was learning Tekken, I'd be at the arcade, and it was really tough. And Tekken has a hard learning curve too. So I didn't have any resources. All the resources were in Korean. I would go to Tekken Zaibatsu. I'd find some information. But in the beginning, I'd go there and I would sidestep and die. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I sidestepped the wrong way. I tried throwing one thing out, and then I get launched, I get juggled, I get wall comboed, and then I'm dead. And I'm like, I don't know what I can do differently. It's hard to learn. The movesets are, very, very long for every character. I don't know frame data. So at the time that was the challenge for me, whereas Street Fighter was like, SRK, there's like huge forums and threads on every single character. People are making videos, people are sharing stuff here. We had really good Balrog players up here too, like Crackfiend. I'd watch him play all the time. He helped me out. It was just easier to pick up, and I just really got sucked into it, I think. That was, around whenever AE came out, like 2012.
Okay.
So
Pretty good. Let's talk about music games. What did you play?
Everything. Fighting games, I still could say I'm pretty shy about picking up new games. Like my boyfriend's pressuring me really hard to play King of Fighters. I did try playing yesterday. It's very different from what I'm used to. It's very fast and it will take time.
Yes.
Music games, I pick it up, I get it immediately. I feel like that's something that's always been super extremely natural to me. So I played DDR in 1999 when it came out, or when I first had access to it. I had a PlayStation, and my friend brought over a disc, and we had to learn how to do the swap trick. So what that is I thought there's a possibility of me having my PlayStation right there. But, you open it up, and you put like a paper clip or something to stick it to, so that it thinks that it's closed.
It thinks it's closed, yes.
And then you swap out an NTSC disc with like the Japanese disc during certain parts where it checks for it on boot. And then you do that like twice, and then it'll load your Japanese game. And we did that for all the music games we had that were from Konami, all the Bemani games. And so I learned how to do that for like all the DDRs. My mom, the eBay was new at the time. So my mom was like, thankfully she took a chance on ordering stuff from like overseas on eBay, which seemed really shady. So we had access to like, I had DDR third mix and official copy, DDR fifth mix and official copy. We had the like soft pads that were freaking terrible. Like we'd tape them to my friend's house that had a hard floor so they wouldn't move. It was tough. Of course I was like, very young. I didn't have access to going to arcade at the time yet. That was when I was like 16. I started going to the arcade to play, and I still played. So, but my favorite music game of all time is Drum Mania or Gitadora. It's drum simulator basically. It's like Guitar Hero, I guess, for drums. And they have
Guitar Mania, Keyboard Mania.
I mean, Konami just puts Mania after everything. And there was even there's like Paradise, but there was like Keyboard Mania, Drum Mania, Guitar Freaks, it was called. Yeah. I played all of them. I played even Para. The only one I think I haven't tried, I kind of stick to the Konami games, so all the Bemani series, which are probably some of the more popular ones anyway, especially at the time. But the biggest ones I got into were DDR. I played that competitively, and Drum Mania. And Drum Mania has kind of evolved now to this thing. It's like Guitar Freaks and Drum Mania fused into this game called Gitadora. They've always kind of been together, so you can play with your friends, but it's this big, huge cab, like way more expensive than what you'd think like a little candy cab would cost. So very few arcades have them in America. Even less have them synced to the Konami's network where you can have your scores and stuff. Because I remember one of the coolest things about Tekken was you have your Tekken card and you got your like customized character on it. That was so cool to me because I'm like, Japan has had this for years and we never had anything like that in America. But Namco had it enabled here when we got Tekken 6, and it was really cool.
Yes, that's awesome. I know we have issues with like our internet infrastructure, which is one part of the reason why we don't get cool options like that. But what's your favorite DDR mix?
DDR mix? Third mix or fifth mix?
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, I cannot believe you asked me such a tough question. I was not expecting that. Third mix or fifth mix? Yeah, I third mix I might say because that's when I first really got into the game, like really hardcore. But fifth mix I just think might be, there's just some songs on fifth mix that would make me like just forget about third mix. But it's hard to say, like all of them are good. I think it started to go downhill a little bit when they put at least at the time I didn't like some of the American songs they started putting in to kind of appeal to people when it got popular in the States. I'm not super weeby. I didn't like just love the anime sounding songs.
Right.
Actually, they're putting more and more of those like idol pop songs into the games now, and I kind of don't like those unless they're just catchy. But they kind of weird me out. And of course, Gitadora has a lot of rock songs, so those are I like those too. But fifth mix, yeah. I'll just say fifth mix.
It's funny. You were talking about ordering pads from like eBay, so I have a story about that. Actually, so I too am a fan of DDR, and I actually played a lot of DDR. I actually left the fighting community very young in the late 90s and didn't play like fighting games in public for years. But I played DDR. So I remember I got into I started buying the discs and like they had like a USA mix and stuff like that. And I just wanted to have it at home because sometimes going to the arcade, it was like just too many people. I didn't want to wait
Oh yeah, yeah.
and stuff. So
It's a
I
long wait.
yeah, and I saved up money, and there was this someone was selling these pads on eBay, and it looked really cool. These supposed to be these hard pads, and I get them right, and they're literally huge buttons, set in bezels, right? So
Oh, okay.
there's no way you could like slide your feet properly to like hit arrows. You literally have to
Yeah.
step, lift, watch the bezel, and step into the next arrow. And like I spent like $300 on them, and that at the time was a lot of
Oh,
money. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, and like I couldn't use them. I felt so crappy. So yeah,
it's hard.
yeah, you definitely took a chance on like pads without being able to try them because I was stuck with these pads that I couldn't play DDR on. It was terrible.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially now, like I would never want to play at home just because I use the bar, and
Mm,
I think a lot of people who are not familiar with DDR or dance games don't realize that they think the bar is like some crutch that is like scrubby to use, but like all of the best players except for one that I can think of, whose name is No Bar Ben, because he's known
mm,
for not using the bar. He's the only person I can think of that I can say that about. Like, uses the bar. All the best players do. It's normal because you're playing games that require so much foot speed and stamina that like you should be using the bar. So yeah, so people are like, "Oh, you're playing with the bar. You're a scrub." It's like that's not how the game
no.
is.
So
But I'm saying that because like playing at home, you don't have the bar, and it makes
mm,
it almost dangerous to have steps that are like really, really embedded in the pad, like because I would worry about tripping on them.
yeah.
Um, Also sliding too much. I remember sliding around so much as a kid. Like people put baby powder on the pads at the arcade sometimes
Yes, I heard about
because
that.
it'll be sticky. Because there's kids with ice cream that'll like rub it all over,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and especially when you play it like, oh, we go to Santa Cruz Boardwalk, and that's the beach, like,
Mm,
and
so
there's
you,
a huge arcade there, and there's music games, and these kids would like get sand and ice cream and butter over like everything on the. It was so upsetting, and like
butter.
people would be like the DR players who come there hardcore with their towels and their water bottles. They'll stare at these kids and like want to yell at them, and
Mhm.
like. But they have to find a way, so they bring an extra towel, clean the pad themselves, extra towel for their face, extra towel for the bar, they bring like 5 towels. I mean, I would be one of these people too. Like you bring a bunch of towels to clean everything up, the whole cab, and they put baby powder on it, and people would just slide around like crazy, which is also very dangerous. But people also don't want to get their feet stuck, so
Right.
it's one of those um, like secret DDR tech things, I
Yeah.
guess. And then we'll get yelled at by the arcade manager for doing this too, by the way.
Oh,
But
of course, yes.
so don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do that, please.
Don't try this at home at all.
Yeah, don't say that I told you how to do it if you do. Please.
So were you like a perfect attack competitor? Were you a freestyler any? Were you around
Not a
freestylers?
freestyler.
No.
No, I had friends that were so good at it, and still are, but I can't do what they do. And it'd be cool. I mean, it'd be cool if I could freestyle, if I could dance at all. I mean, that would be cool, but I cannot. And I haven't put much effort into learning, so I'm very hardcore about like my score, and that's one thing I liked about DDR because there was a time where Konami was like, DDR turned off in America. Like you can't, they were really strict about. They still are really strict about a lot of things, and so In the Groove came up.
Hmm.
In the Groove was American made, knockoff of DDR, but it was extremely good. It had good songs, it had but the thing is people liked about it was more challenging because at the
Right.
time the step charts they put out were like more creative. They had, bombs and like hand plants and different like little things actually made it more complex. And I was super into that game when it came out. You had a USB you could bring in and save your scores and upload stuff, and that was really cool too. I could compare my scores to people, all over the place. Then Konami came back and was like, "No more In the Groove. Like you can't copy our game." And so they started, I guess, releasing more stuff for us, which included EMUs and DDR Ace, which was people call it like the DDR Renaissance or whatever. But
Yes.
I checked it out and I started playing more when Ace came out. But I feel like I know a lot of people might feel this way, and I shouldn't, but I feel like I'm kind of old to be sweating at the arcade now. Especially when I'm playing fighting games too. It became one of those things where it's like, I go to the arcade to play fighting games. Like, I don't want to be the sweaty person that shows up and tries to sit down next to you and play like Tekken with you. Like, I don't want to be that person. But it's good fitness. It's good fitness. It's an extremely fun game, and like, I'll never knock DDR if people are 40 years old playing it. Like, it's fine. And the same thing with Gitadora. I mean, Gitadora is intense. It's drumming. You're drumming and you get tired. So yeah, just having access to emus has made those games just come back in a huge way, I think, before COVID, obviously.
Of course, yes. That's awesome. That's awesome. So we're gonna go. You're kind of in between these two realms, right? Like you're playing like competitive, rhythm games, and you're playing fighting games. So now tell us more about your love for Boxer. How did that come about?
Boxer?
Like,
Oh, you
yeah,
can see it right here.
yeah, of course.
So when I started playing, again, like a lot of my friends and resources, I guess, were Keystone people, and I was never going to ask them anything. But I started playing Street Fighter, and my boyfriend at the time was like, "I'll show you a character," and like he knows fighting games inside and out, and he's super helpful. And everyone told me like you got to play Ryu, which is good advice. He's you're going to get your fundamentals down, you're going to learn how to do basic motions, learn Ryu. Any beginner, it's good, and I'd still recommend that. But for some reason, I hate everyone who told me this because they're like, "Oh, Boxer has charge, so you're new. You shouldn't play a charge character." And I'm like, I didn't understand that. I still don't understand it, and it pisses me off because I didn't play for the longest time because I wanted to play Boxer because Boxer looks so freaking cool. Like, he's a boxer. Like, I don't know how to explain it to people, but like, I thought he was really cool, really, really cool. And he just looked cool. He looked angry and he looked fierce, and I wanted to play that character. And learning that the actual moves were not hard at all. In fact, they were worlds easier than doing a quarter circle for me at the time as a new player. Especially the Tekken player. Like, I didn't do quarter circles with Ling. I didn't need to. So I got Barl pretty quickly, and I liked his defensive style. I liked that he can counter hit you and beat the shit out of you in the corner. Like, that was fun. I liked scaring people, but also being able to play defensively. And I think as I got better as a player, I learned how to be more patient, which made me stronger with Barog and future characters. Like, I play Charlotte in Samsho, and I just try to be a wall and try to make the other person frustrated, and I like that feeling. Not enough that I'd play Dalsim or something like that, but Barog's also very, very good for beginners too. You can mash jab. You can. My favorite thing, the best feeling ever, is getting like a neutral jump fierce and like just keeping them from moving forward at all. They're like, what can I do? I can't walk forward because I'm going to.
Is that the punch like this?
The stop sign. Yeah, that's the best thing. So I would and they're like, maybe I'll jump, and I'm like, I don't want to anti-air them with a crouching fierce. I want to stop them in the air, and it just feels good doing that. And like, I got the same feeling when I played Charlotte because Charlotte has jump B. She jump forward B, neutral jump B, jump back. Her B is so ridiculous in every situation. So I'm like, that's my feel good move, And so Barog's fierce, like crouching fierce, neutral jump fierce is. I love that feeling. So, of course, landing a headbutt, like, and scaring the shit out of someone and getting ultra off of it's good too. But neutral jump fierce was like, I fell off with Barog, I guess.
What was your best success with Barog? Like, how far did he take you in terms of tournament play?
I mean, I started with him, so I went from 0 to being, I never considered myself a good player. I think I was a little bit above average. Of course, I didn't get top 8 in any tournaments, and I consider someone who gets top 8 to be a good player,
right.
Maybe even below that a little bit. I never made it that far, I took a couple names at tournaments, like I've beaten sponsored players at tournaments before, and those moments feel really good because people don't expect you to do well at all. So, it feels good beating someone who you think is out of your league. You just sit down, like, because you see their name in the bracket and you're like, oh my God, they're on my side of the bracket.
Yeah.
But if you sit down thinking like, oh, I'm already going to get out, I'm going to go, 2-1 because I'm going to run into that person, I'm going to lose. But like, you have to sit down and think like, it's possible to beat anybody. There's a situation and a time where it's possible to beat somebody, and you just have to do your best and not get defeated before you sit down. And I think most people understand that, but it's hard to practice it. But the other thing about Street Fighter is like I didn't get nervous when I played Street Fighter in tournament at all. I think I have really, really good tournament nerves. Especially in Street Fighter, and I think it was because Barog, I felt like I could always just slow the game down if I needed to, and I felt overwhelmed. And that character allowed me to do that. Whereas in Tekken, I would shake. It was specifically my left knee would shake so bad. I was so nervous when I'd play Tekken in tournament that my stick would like shift off my lap because my left leg specifically would be shaking more than my right leg, and my hands would be shaking. Like I was so nervous because I wasn't confident. I was very confident with my Barog, and I could play my best in tournament, which is a great feeling because you don't want to lose to nerves. I can't say I've never felt like I've lost to nerves before. I lose because the other person played better than me.
The thing we all get plagued as tournament players. If it's not the matchup, it's tournament nerves. For me, I hate the razzing of players or like spectators that can sometimes get under my skin if I'm trying to play. Especially if they're rooting against you. That that really sucks. But there's so many aspects to this being in tournament play that you have to get over aside from the actual gameplay itself. So it's pretty cool, pretty interesting.
There's times where I've played on stream too, and
being on stream.
I felt like it would scare me, but like I've won a lot of mine. I mean, that I played on stream, and it feels good. I get hyped off of it, I guess. But yeah, anyone cheering against me behind me, like that would frazzle me for sure. Another thing that really that really made it hard for me in tournament was audio. Like I'm very dependent on audio. I've always had the ability to hear loud arcade cabs. Like our arcade lets us have it loud enough to hear it. So at a tournament where I can't even hear any of the moves, that would actually get to me more than anything.
You need audio cues.
I felt really dependent on it.
They're very important audio cues. You ever pop off? You ever get crazy and pop off? You ever beat someone and and you're like, do like,
I wanted to so
give me my money,
about it. As I was beating them, I was thinking, I'm like, it was on stream, and I was like, should I pop off? I'm like, I'm gonna beat this guy right now, and I think I should pop off, and I didn't. I've never popped off, no. But that was one time. It was when I played Flow, and it was I was like, I wanted to pop off. I didn't, and he didn't deserve that. And I'm glad I didn't. Okay. But I think it's because a lot of people didn't believe in me, and this was right after Cross Assault, and I didn't have a lot of friends in the community, and I was like, I'm here. Like I felt like everyone, and this is not on Float. I think I just put. It's one of those like corny things where you put someone you hate's face on the punching bag,
right?
And and you're like ready to fight. So Flo was the punching bag, and the thing that I pasted on him was probably like Twitch chat and all the people who would give me shit and all the people would tell me that like I suck or that I don't belong here. That was the thing that
motivated you.
I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah, and so like when I won, I was like, everyone shut the fuck up, I can do this. That's what I was thinking in my head, but yeah, it felt good because I was like, I do have my spot in the community, and I did earn this by doing my best and trying my best and getting better, and I'm not gonna go anywhere, and that's what I was feeling, at least.
Awesome. So. You should always feel that way. That's a good feeling to have.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the term Cross Assault, and that is at this point, because you've been around the community for quite a while, I would consider you an OG. The people that are new, that are watching, they're going to watch this. What was Cross Assault? Can you get into that?
So Cross Assault was kind of a big deal in the FGC. So first of all, it was. I'll try to be brief. Yes. It was Capcom put on this. It was for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which was a big deal already because it was Namco game and Capcom game, like their major titles becoming one. How is that going to work? Like, who's going to be in it? Like, people had a lot of questions about it, right? It was highly anticipated for that reason. So Capcom took it a step further with their promotion of the game and had this like show, this like a week and a half long, I think it was 10 days total, show that was like, it was a streamed live show of like these competitors, Team Tekken and Team Street Fighter, having early access to the game and having their teams and it was like almost like a reality show because it had these elements thrown in, like this is like a weird, like a challenge that you have to do, and it's like something weird like in the game that they just throw at you. It doesn't even make sense, but like and then some of them are like combo challenges or like whatever. But Team Tekken was people who mostly had experience with Tekken, and Street Fighter was people who had mostly experience with Street Fighter. So Sherry, was on Team Capcom, Team Street Fighter, and I was on Team Tekken. And then there was 4 other people. It was Eris was captain of Tekken, really good Tekken players. Bronson extremely good as well, and I'm not gonna name everybody, but there's a lot of really really good players. Right. And when I say good players, I mean they're better than me, so I was intimidated by that. But being on that team, there was a lot of, I think, a lot of direction on what this was supposed to be. Was it supposed to be a highly focused on competition? Is it supposed to be, a really professional environment? Like, what is it supposed to be? And so there's all these different personalities. They're trying to get their time on the camera, a lot trying to get their skills showcased, trying to learn the game. Like, they want to get access to the, I know, like, spoiler alert, Nerd Josh won, but he was like really dedicated. Like, the people who are there, they also want to learn how the game. They're spending that time. This is early access time. They're trying to learn how to play the game. That's what I wanted too. But I think people, especially, you have to remember this was like 8 years ago or almost 10 years ago. Attitudes are very different from a lot of people, including myself, of what the fighting community is. And like at the time, like my first Evo, I didn't see another girl competing. I was the only one that I saw. There might have been a couple more, but now it's like there's a girl in every bracket. So it's come a long way in terms of like how many women are in the community, how many women compete, and how many women are serious about these games or just show up. Like whether you're an artist, cosplayer, girlfriend, mom, whatever, if you're there, there's a lot more than there used to be. So, in short, at the time, people were like not used to seeing women playing. They don't take us seriously. And I think some of those attitudes came out like on my team from coaches, and I can say confidently, I'm very, very close, not close, but very, very cool with everybody that participated on this at this point now. But at the time, there was a lot of drama and tension and people, judgment and people just saying things like, the thing that stuck with me the most is, someone saying sexual harassment is part of the fighting community. That it triggered me. It got me really pissed. I was like, hearing that as a woman who's dealt with a fair share of sexual harassment, I don't want to hear that. And especially when I'm, doing my best and have this opportunity, it really pissed me off. And I thought it was very unfair. And it upset me because it was part of that came from a comparison between how the fighting community is and how esports is. And esports was coming up like, I think StarCraft was the biggest esport at the time. Like this was a very long time ago. We didn't have like League of Legends yet.
Right.
I don't think. But it was growing and it was very separate. It was from the beginning very noticeable how different it was from fighting games because fighting tournaments, like you pop off and throw someone's controller, or like people fight, like people are crazy in the fighting community, and it's fun and exciting, and people talk shit. Like I was part of that too, and not the stick throwing and the violence, but like, like some trash talk or some like really feeling yourself, like, in the competition, especially it being a one-on-one game. Like I think that's something people forget about is that like, I mean, StarCraft is too, but you're one-on-one, you're sitting next to each other, you smell the other person, you see their sweat on their forehead, and you're playing them and you shake their hand afterwards. And like, StarCraft or like these team games like League of Legends, like I respect those games and I love, other competitive games too, but like it's a team game, it's different. It's an online game, it's different. Like there's nothing like fighting games,
Right.
Except maybe music games. Where you're playing that person one-on-one. This is a very large reason why I like both, I think. But you're sitting right next to that person, you look at them eye to eye, and you shake their hand afterwards. I love that, and so because of that, again, like the differences are so noticeable. Everyone's there in person, seeing each other, and back to the fact that I think people were taking issue with how maybe boring or how professional or how like toned down and buttoned up like esports were. They feel like they're taking the fun out of it, and part of the fun is the shit talk. You can't curse on a StarCraft stream. You can't tell someone they suck. You can't, some basic stuff it's removed, and people didn't like that. And I kind of also was kind of like, that's kind of lame. I don't like that. I like a little bit. You have to find a line, right, where it's acceptable. But then some people took it a little more and said, all this really stuff that, I found negative, like sexual harassment or like, racism or like things that you probably shouldn't say, like in any context. They're like, that's part of the fighting community. And I'm like, no, it's really not. And it's not part of, StarCraft or all these other things either. But at the time, people were so used to their ways. People were also a lot younger. People also had a lot of, they're in their ways because it's always been like that to them, and it doesn't affect them.
Right.
So I've always been even before fighting games, I've been outspoken against sexism. I've handled a lot of it myself throughout my life. And I always speak up when I feel a certain way. And so that clashed with me really badly. I'm back to cross assault. So I was like, look, I don't want to play for this team anymore. I don't want to be part of this anymore. It just went on the whole time. This whole attitude that this is how it is and it's not going to change and no one should have to change for this. I gave up after a while, and I was like, look, this isn't for me. contractually I had to be there for the rest of the event. So I just held forward. I held forward and I forfeited. I died. Like in my match, I held forward so I wouldn't block anything. I died and I got eliminated and I just sat in the back the rest of the time, pretty miserable, pretty pissed. And I was kind of hoping that, someone, and then the worst part is, one person having that attitude, I could talk to that person or have them see my point of view, but like seeing Twitch chat agree with this, like hundreds of people being like, yeah, like in your shit for thinking otherwise, and just going in on me even harder was like the hardest thing to take in. And then another thing that people don't really talk about, like people see like, oh, sexual harassment, they know what it is, it's bad, but they also don't understand that like me, at least what I felt at the time, not having friends back me up. And actually, it's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask because people don't want to get involved in drama, right? They don't want to. I understand that too, and I've been in that position before. But something like cross assault, like my friends back at home, like when I come back, they're like, they're not going to make some grand statement for me, like to help me, and I think they should have. And I think if it was today, they would have. But at the time, it's scary because everyone's already against me. They don't want to jump into a pit where someone's being eaten alive by lions.
Right.
How's that going to help them? So I felt like I had no support, very, very little support. And it was so hard. And, so now, when people come out forward with stories about like, hey, this person, did this thing to me, it made me feel pushed out of the community, or it was like hateful in some way. And they just want to find accountability for that person. Maybe not like kick them out of the community, but they're just like, hey, like this is messed up, it should change. Yeah. I think it's good that they have the courage to say those things, and then people have the courage to support them, because I think the allies and the people who are helping them out are important too, because it makes a big difference whether you come forward and say something or not, if people are going to have your back or not.
Yeah, of course. That makes all the difference. You got to have that support, when you're fighting and dealing with these issues, you of course, are a female who's been in this community for some time. What do you say to women and that are coming into the community that are on the outside in? Like, what would you say to them to help them along in their journey that you didn't maybe have access to? Like, no one told you, but you can now, you have that knowledge. You can tell the next one that's coming up. What would you say to women coming to this community now that see Street Fighter, see Tekken, see a King of Fighters, Samurai Showdown, a Marvel game? What do you say to them to help them thrive and continue to grow in this community?
Don't let anyone tell you can't do it. Like, one of the first negative comments I had was my boyfriend at the time, very, very long time ago. He's not even in the community anymore, but it was the very first tournament I ever entered for Tekken. And he said, why are you entering? And I'm like, the same reason everyone else is entering. Like, do you think you can win? And I was like, no, I just started playing this game. I don't think I can win. I just want to see how good I can do. And he's like, why? Are you entering for attention? And I was like, no, I'm entering for the same reason everyone else is entering. I want to play and see how good I do, and see, and learn and get and compete. It's fun. Like, I think if any guy told him that, he would understand it. But if I say it, he didn't get that. He thought, he just was already set thinking that I'm here for attention. And I'm like, I get attention when I go anywhere. I don't need attention in the fighting community. Like, I'm loud. Like
Right.
that comes naturally. So that's not something I was seeking out in the fighting community. I really just wanted to compete, and I'm a very competitive person. It was hard to make people see that, and oftentimes, especially at the time, again, this is like the mid 2000s, early 2000s, sometime in some cases. If a girl's on the stream, like looking at her phone, like not even aware that she's on the camera, like the chat will be full of people saying, "Oh my god, attention whore! She's on the camera. She knows she's on the camera." It's like, what? Like, so is the commentator. The commentator's in front of the camera. The player's in front of the camera. No one's judging them. Right. It's one of those things. But anyway, I guess it goes those two things. That's another thing I want to talk about, is like being on a stream. Like, don't be scared to be on a stream. Don't be scared to play. Like, don't let someone discourage you, I guess. Like, people will always try to discourage you. People will go to your Twitter and see that you're a female and just already hate you and say mean shit and try to discourage you, make you feel bad just for existing. Like, don't, like, those people suck. Like, don't even listen to them. Like, and I think that's advice a lot of people would give, and it's just so hard to take in, especially, as a teenager. Like, you want approval from everybody. like for the younger players, you want approval from everybody. You want to make friends, and so when someone you can't be friends with everybody, and there's people you don't want to be friends with who are going to be assholes. Like, don't look for their approval. You know, but figure out like why you're there. Like, you're in this community because you cosplay, or because you play competitively, or because you play casually. Like, find out what you want to do in the community, and then just do it. Like, don't let people say shit like you're not part of the community or whatever, or because you're not good. You're not good yet. It's like, well, if you're new, you're not going to be good. Like, no one was good on their first day. Like, don't let people say that and let it get to you. You know, like, and then the other thing is like, take yourself seriously too. Like, don't like, you know, I think the more you do that, more people around you will like want to help you get better, or like, you know, listen to you and stuff like that. And yeah, I would just say don't listen to people who are going to be jackasses. That's probably the advice anyone would give, but it's like, it's so important to learn how to do that for yourself, you know?
You just got to tune out all the negativity, you know, that's all around this community. That being said, do you think the community has come a long way from its boys club roots, like the whole boys treehouse? You know, you can't come in here. I mean, your honest opinion, have we grown? Do we need more work? You know,
okay, both. Yes, we've grown incredible amount, and I think actually, you know, if a new person came into this community, I'd still be a little embarrassed about some of the stuff that goes on. Like, they might be like, "What the hell? Like, that's normal here?" Like, a little bit, yeah. But so we have come a long way. Again, like, I see so many more women at tournaments. Like, I'm not the only woman that goes to a tournament. Like, that happened a lot. Like, I'd be the only woman in the room, and I had to just deal with that. I had to just learn how to not be uncomfortable. People typically some people might have to deal with that in their area still, or like, you know, in their community. And it's just a matter of just staying focused, you know, what you're doing, not letting anything make you uncomfortable. But I think we've come a long way, a very long way. People are comfortable coming forward, coming out to tournaments and stuff. But people also still have issues going on in their communities, or just overall, that need to be addressed. The community still has a lot more work to do in terms of inclusion. That's not just, you know, women. It's, you know, trans women. It's women of color, especially. Like, that's a huge issue that I've seen. Like, I've learned more about this year because people are speaking up more. It's disgusting, like how people are just, you know, discrediting some of our Black female players. Like, it's not cool.
It's gross. I'm embarrassed when I hear about it, you know, as a Black male. You know, it's just like, no, why are we discrediting any female, let alone you know, Black or whatever? You know, it's not right. It's just so inappropriate.
I think that's the biggest pain point right now, honestly, in terms of it, because like I feel like way more comfortable than I did before in 2006 or 5 or whatever. Like,
because you were there, you saw the growth, you know, you saw the things change little by little. You know, we're not perfect, but
yeah, both in individuals, because the thing is, it has to come from the top down. I think, like, if TOs let stuff slide, you know, if TOs let stuff slide, then everyone who's in this, you know, this tournament or this event is gonna know that they can get away with whatever the hell they want, and then it just spreads, I think. And TOs already have an incredible amount of responsibility on their plate, and it's hard to be like, you get out, you know, like, they make that call because it always comes with so much hate from both sides or wherever. But they have a responsibility to do that, I think, and at least make people feel safe, you know. So they hear something, see something, like, to act on it, keep your code of conduct reasonable, like, draw the line somewhere. Follow through on warnings. Like, someone gets a warning for something. Like, something I've seen is, like, I think it's a lot of black and white. Like, someone says something on Twitter that sounds kind of threatening. It's like you're either banned for like 5 events, or you're just like, or it's like, oh, they didn't really mean it, it's fine, it's a joke. And it's like, it depends on who the person is, it depends on who's the event is, who's making the call. And I get that these things are being addressed, and they should be, if it's any kind of negative, you know, comment that someone makes or threat. But I feel like there's like less extreme cases where it's like, this person insulted this person, no, it's not cool, but like, are they going to be banned? Like, I feel like the line is drawn in different places, and I know the community is working together to make like a code of conduct. I really would like to see the progress made there, because you know, I want to know that, like, we have a kind of a more uniform, like, decision making process about our code of conduct, basically. So yeah, I know people are heavily invested in that and are working on it. I'm excited to see what they come up with. But it's a step in the right direction, I think. Because like I said, TOs already they have so much on their plate. They're already doing so much.
When you say that, like a code of conduct, is it basically based on kind of all the allegations that have happened in and around the community in the last year that have come to light, or just like that plus everything that's happened before? Like, because I know that was a lot of discussion this year in particular because of like the accusations of different players in the Smash community, some FEC, and now that a lot of TOs have like come together. They want to have this code of conduct. So you think it should like is it something that should be like should it be like there be a committee? Because then people have their reservations, right? Like, oh, you got to then who's on the committee? If there's a committee, if there's a committee involved, who's on the committee? Like, what are your thoughts on more about having that code of conduct across the board in these like events?
Well, a code of conduct is heavily favored. I would like a code of conduct at least just to define where the line is.
Right.
Because there's people who don't know where the line is. There's people who think they do and they don't, and that's kind of what concerns me the most. And that's something that's kind of fixable with something like a code of conduct. But in terms of like punishment for people who have done something wrong, like how many times, how is it? If you do this thing, this offense, are you going to get banned permanently? Right. And then this other offense, is this going to be something you should get a warning for? Like defining that is going to take a lot more work, I think. But
you think it's a case by case basis? You think it's just something that should be across the board?
Yeah, but like you said, like a committee, like that type of thing. I think in the past I would have thought that was a great idea, and I still think it could be. But I'm just nervous because there's so many people who were in powers of position that have abused it. So it's like you have a committee of 5 people to make these decisions, and 2 of them end up being like sleazy, like jerk offs. Then it's like, well, like
who do we look
so
up to? Like, it gets crazy. Yes.
Yeah, and especially with this year, I've been a little disheartened about the things I'm hearing. And so like, I don't know. It's something we have to figure out as a community, and I think talking about it is the first step. So I would like to see what they come up with in terms of the code of conduct and how it plays out. Because like right now, everyone's kind of standing still anyway. There's no events going on.
Right.
I just and one of the things I've done, like I think I get that people, especially like I think it was 2014 and 2015, I had a women's suite. And so I've never really been, this is a little off topic, I guess, but I've never really been in favor of women's only events.
Okay.
I've heard, for me personally, I used to be really against them because I thought of it as like separation implies inferiority kind of thing. And I still kind of feel that way depending on who's it coming from. If it's a guy saying like, oh my God, it'd be cool to have a bunch of girls in the room because it's a sausage fest, we want to bring girls in. It's like, do you want to bring girls in because you want to hang out with more girls, or do you want to bring girls in because you want to see them shine? Like, if it's a women's group, like a women's like club or something that's like, let's have a get together, like that makes more sense to me. And sometimes women's only competitions make sense to me too. They're not for me, but like I've spoken to enough women that have said it's helped them that I believe that, and if they want to have them, it's harmless. But I typically think that everything should be mixed. There's no reason it shouldn't be. It's not a physical sport. It's not like boxing where it would make sense to have women's only and men's only. I don't think it makes sense at all for fighting games.
Right.
But again, I'm not gonna tell anyone they're wrong for wanting it. If they do, if it makes them more comfortable, it's fine. But at Evo, I did have a women's only suite, and that was different because I knew at my first Evo, again, like I didn't see any other women there except for the couple that I came with. Right. And I realized if you're coming with a group of just guys and you come to Evo and it's Vegas, and you're the only girl in the room like most of the time, it's probably really uncomfortable and weird, and you probably don't even know how to make friends with other people or find them. So it's kind of like a meetup, like I guess, and it was fun. Like it was a party, it was a sweet party. And so I invited like every girl in the fighting community I knew. Told them to invite everyone they wanted. The next years I had it too, but it was mixed. I had guys come in too. I was like, whatever. But I just wanted to create a space where people felt comfortable and like networking, I guess, and also just having fun. There was setups. But the thing is, like, a lot of people trusted me, I trust myself. But and I don't think anything bad happened at those events. At least not that I've heard of at all. I think people mostly just had fun. But like, what if someone who had bad intentions ran something like that?
Right.
That's happened before. It's like I don't know who to trust anymore. Kind of feeling it feels shitty. So I just hope more people who have the best intentions are holding events and doing stuff like that. And I can say I trust very, very much a lot of the people who are in positions, like the Tenno guys, like a lot of the big TOs. So I feel kind of comfortable, and I always felt kind of comfortable. I'm always surrounded by friends that I trust that have never wronged me. So I feel like I have bodyguards a lot of times. I've been safe, but I just worry about some of the stuff going on that you hear less about. I don't know. It's a problem the community has to address as a whole, as a group, and solve. I wish I had answers.
That's cool. Absolutely.
But and I think it's also someone's job. Like, if you see something, if you hear something, like,
say it. Yeah,
say
of course.
something.
Say something, of course.
Yeah.
Especially if, as a member of this community, you come. It's weird because I always say the FGC and communities like the FGC are kind of like our escape from the norm, right? Like, we have our lives, we have our stressors in our lives and stuff. And sometimes I just want to get away with some friends. I want to pop off at matches. I want to press buttons. I want to see, that's what, it's what we like. It's what we like to do. And and you can kind of view this for yourself as a fantasy world. But then when the reality seeps into that fantasy and the same problems that you can deal with in your personal life, you can start to see in these spaces. It's rough. And it makes it unenjoyable, and you don't want any of that. So
I completely agree with that. Yeah, it's not great.
Keep all that negative stuff out. We don't want that here.
Yeah.
Moving on, something a little more lighthearted, of course. So imagine yourself, you're kind of like a meme right now, right? You're walking down the street and you're holding Boxer's hand. You look back and it's Charlotte. What's that about, right? How'd you get into Samurai Showdown now you're like, you're questioning, and now Samurai Showdown enters your life. What happens?
Well, I think he was cut off with Boxer before I started playing Sam Show. I mean, there's a couple of years in between. Like,
right.
What happened for me, at least, was Street Fighter 4 died down. Street Fighter 5 came out. I didn't particularly like the game. I didn't like how it felt. I didn't even really give it a fair shot, I would say, like, honestly speaking. I played a little bit and I was like, it's not 4. No one's playing 4 anymore. And at the time, Overwatch came out.
Okay, yeah.
Overwatch came out again. Like, I've always played a lot of games besides fighting games. So Overwatch came out. It was exciting to me. I was a Blizzard, kid at the time. Still, not anymore. But I was fascinated by I Blizzard betas are very hard to get into, and I was like the biggest nerd when it came to Overwatch. Like, I saw the trailer and I was like, I need to play this game. Yes. I need to play this game so badly. I talked about it nonstop to every single person I knew until I got a beta, and I got a beta key. It was like a Blizzard family and friends type of beta by my coworker's sister's boyfriend's friend, who I'd never spoken to or knew. He worked at Blizzard, and he was like, he heard, like, my coworker pressured his sister enough to, like, use her connections, I guess. And so, like, I actually got into the beta because, like, I put me on his family and friends list.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's how obnoxious I was about it. So, like, beta was very, very small, and I got to know a lot of the players, people who are still playing now in, like, Overwatch League, like, really early on, and, like, play with them and, like, be part of the community very early, which helped me make, I made a ton of friends. I got to play it a lot. And I just kind of got sucked into that game. I think, I don't see anything bad about it, but I think it feels kind of stale now. It feels kind of like I'm totally done with it. I haven't played it in like over a year, and I don't really have any interest in going back playing it really. But for the time being, I was really sucked into it, and that didn't leave a lot of time for fighting games or anything else.
Right.
That was my thing in like probably, I guess, 2015. I think that was. And fighting games are kind of out of the picture. Also, I was working a job where I'd be like 8 to 10 or like 10 hours a day usually. Like, I'd be working a lot. And the idea of like getting a change of clothes and like driving all up to San Francisco to go to a session or to go to a weekly, that like appealed less to me because I'd already been doing that for like years, and I was like kind of like, it's a weekday night. I'm tired. I'm getting old. I have to work. Like it became harder for me to like convince myself to do that. And again, netcode meant I wouldn't really be playing at home. So Overwatch, League of Legends, all that stuff. I did it. I'm embarrassed, but I did.
No, don't be embarrassed.
And
Wow.
I know. People judge for it, but those games are all fun. They're all fun. They're all good. They're all polished too. They have a lot of support. So, yeah, I played a lot of PC games at the time. That's when I got into Final Fantasy 14 as well. And then at that point, it had been like a year and a half, a couple of years, and I was like, am I gonna play fighting games again? Like I started, my friendships with my Street Fighter 4 friends started kind of fading, or like I'd keep in contact with them less, and I'm like, these are my best friends, these are my brothers, like, and sisters, like, and I started every year or so I'd step back and be like, am I even in the fighting community anymore? Like I haven't played anything, I don't hang out with my friends anymore, I miss it so much, but what am I gonna do, play Street Fighter 5? I'm sorry, I just don't like that game.
Right, yeah.
And then my friend Jeff, I was hanging out with him, chatting about all kinds of stuff. We played Street Fighter 4 a bit, and he was like, I don't know what it was, but he was like, do you play like SNK games? And I was like, no, I never touched King of Fighters. And he's like, dude, you should play Sam Show. It's coming out. Like, I have the beta. Like, come over and play Sam Show. And I was like, I had never heard of Sam Show before. What the hell? And he was like super obsessed with it, and like he didn't have a lot of people to play with. So like I'd play with him, and it was like I felt that like when it first clicks with you, and I was like, oh my god, I love this game. It's so fun. Like I love playing this game, and like all I did was play Sam Show for like a year, before it came out and after it came out. And it was Charlotte. Like I played Nakoruru during the beta where they had like 4 characters accessible, or maybe 2. It was Yashimaru, Hamaru, I think, and Nakoruru. I don't remember who else. I think that might have been it. I played her because she's one of the only characters available. And then when the game came out, I was like, Charlotte looks cool. Like, she looks cool. And then I heard she's turtly. I heard she's got a strong button. She's got a bunch of strong buttons. And I was like, and she has the most health. It's insane to me. She has earthquake health. She has the most health in the game.
Yeah.
And I think they said it's because she's a fencer and she's wearing armor. She's wearing like chest armor, and no one else they're all wearing cloth. They're all wearing like kimonos and stuff, yeah. or gi, or yeah, they're wearing cloth. I think that was the reason behind it, but I'm like, I don't need a reason for her to be OP. Like, I'll play her. And she's fun. She just fit my play style, and I still I liked playing Charlotte a lot, and it had that feeling like Barlog did, where I played a game at my pace. I set the pace. I threw out the strong neutral game, and like, yeah. I liked it. And I liked the other characters too. Like I'd mess around with some other characters. I never played them like seriously, but I liked like how it felt, playing against all these different play styles with all the other characters too, and just learning the game. And that was actually the first time I ever had to play a character that had a uppercut. So I had to learn how to do uppercuts and fireballs, which it's kind of insane after playing fighting games that long. Because I'd always play one character. I never really, I'm not like
master like at least a couple.
Yeah, I didn't really. So, it was Barog and it was Xiao Yu before that. So I was like, I have to learn how to do uppercuts now. And it wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. I was pretty good at reacting and doing them and airing with them. So I felt like I got that down pretty quick. And it was fun. It was fun to, anti-air someone with uppercut. Like what happened to me all the time in Street Fighter 4. I got to do it with other people.
Now, I know when I met you, which was ECT last year, I guess I'll consider you someone that's in the community, making things work in the community. You had the team tournament go on and stuff. Did Samurai Showdown like first inspire you to get more involved with the community, or did you do that before with Street Fighter?
With Street Fighter, I did it before a little bit. So me and some friends from San Jose. So San Jose State was the college I went to, but there was also there's an arcade there that had Street Fighter, and there's a lot of people in that area who went to the school specifically who played. So like the community at the school was like really strong. And so we'd do like some events at the arcade. I would co-run or co-organize some stuff with some people there. And yeah, I'm like, in terms of events, like I never ran a tournament myself, but I'd always help run brackets, help run registration, help out in some way. But I never wanted the responsibility of like organizing the thing because I already know how monstrous that is, and I did
The
it for
pain.
work, like professionally. Yeah, I'd help run events, so like I didn't want to do that as my hobby either because I'm not getting paid to do it. And it's stressful as hell. I don't need it in both my worlds. So I would just kind of be on the sidelines helping. I never really ran anything myself. I think other than like the girls' sweet party, which was a large responsibility, but it was super casual and fun. It wasn't like a tournament. It was just a more fun thing. But yeah, I think the only event that I've mostly taken on myself was probably the one that I met you at. It was at ECT. It was like a side thing. Of course, I had a lot of help from Katamari. I had a lot from you guys, and the production and then finding the space and the time for it. But organizing the players, and I had a lot of help also from Aru and gathering up his side, because what I wanted it to be was like, I knew that there was a good amount of West Coast people coming out for that, and we've never had that. Like Sam Show was still relatively new. We didn't have like a bunch of events. It wasn't like several majors every month. It was like that was the first time that most people came out for both. So I was like, there's a good amount of people from West Coast coming out, and I know East Coast has a strong scene, so we should have like a East Coast versus West Coast exhibition. But then Aru, of course, is like, he complained about how there's so many good people from East Coast that we need to have multiple teams for East Coast. I'm like, okay, well then it can't be East Coast versus West Coast anymore. So we had like regions or areas. So it was like DMV. There was like New York 1, New York 2. West Coast had one team, I think. After that,
Yeah.
So,
I forgot who won that. It was, what did it come down to? I think both the New York teams got out. Was that? Yeah.
It was a three-way tie.
Oh yeah, the tie.
It was just a tie. It was a tie. So it had to be with the number of teams we had and people dropping out or whatever, and the way it was set up. It was round robin. I think it ended up being round robin, 3 teams at the end, and it was like a three-way tie. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, but
people were so disappointed, and I was like, well, it wasn't for money. It was for fun.
Yeah, it was great action. It was great action.
In my defense, the time constraints, I couldn't see how we could do it any other way.
Right.
With the time constraints and how long it takes to run a team event. But it was disappointing to have a 3-way tie. But another fun thing was that was the first time that Basara came out, and he was the first like streamed footage of him, I guess, because he came out I think over that weekend.
Yeah.
And he was legal. It was the first tournament play of Basara. I think he was legal in that event because it was a side thing. People got to see Basara, some good practice with Basara. Like that was cool. But I made a lot of friends at ECT. ECT was like, it was the first ECT I'd been doing, and it was like, it completely reminded me of everything I loved about the fighting community. Like, I bitched and moaned the whole time about where it was because it was so far for me to go from fly across the country to New York and then
go to Connecticut.
Yeah, I was like, in California we have tournaments right as close as we can to the airport. I don't know about you guys, and like I had to take like an Uber that was like way more expensive than I thought it would be, like really far. I didn't know, and everyone I knew in New York didn't have a car because they live in New York. So I was like, it was frustrating. And as soon as I got there, from start to finish, that event was so amazing. Like, I absolutely will be there next time. I'm going to buy the merch this time. I know it comes out.
Awesome.
It came out now. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Another thing I really am excited for is Combo Breaker. I had never been to a Combo Breaker before.
Me neither. And that's because I miss it's between the timing and like missing hotel rooms, and it frustrates me. And like, I know that's like one of the events, if you're an FTC, you have to go based on what people have been telling me. So hopefully next year I might get a chance to go.
I will go next year. Like, there's nothing that will keep me from going next year, or whenever they can have it again, because I feel like I missed out. So, and again, this was like when Combo Breaker was, becoming like the biggest and the best. Like, that's when I was taking a step away from the fighting community. So I didn't really I wasn't going to any majors at the time during that a couple year period. Coming back playing Sam Show, everyone's like, what the hell? Like, how could you have never been to Combo Breaker? I know it's in Chicago, but Jesus, like, you gotta make the trip. So yeah, I regret never being at one. I was fully intending to go this year, and it's unfortunate what happens, but when it comes up again, I'm going. And ACT as well. I think those are my two favorites at this point. We used to have our We used to have NorCal regionals, SoCal regionals, and all those. And those were my favorites too. Like I'd go to SoCal all the time and play with those guys, and SoCal regionals was amazing. We'd have a lot of other like smaller, like we'd have Strong Style. We'd have
Strong Style, yes.
a lot of California majors that were amazing as well. But those kind of, I feel, have also kind of changed. Like, for example, NorCal regionals was kind of far away to a point where like I didn't want to travel 2 hours to get to it, and like things change. Like it's so expensive to rent a space where all these we have to make these changes and sacrifices. So I'm really hoping that like when events are viable again, because the health concerns are kind of taken care of, that TOs have the resources to do these events like as they were, or even bigger and better. I hope people come back instead of giving up and being like, oh, I'm done with fighting games. Like they come back and be like, this is a time where we can put all of our resources back into it and make it bigger and better than before.
Yes.
Because I'm willing to do that, and I know TOs, they're already putting in 100%. I don't know if they can put in 110%, but I know any TO that's running anything after COVID is going to be, doing their best, and we need to support them. Like that's so important.
As long as we're safe, as long as we're safe, like we definitely want to support them.
When the time comes,
right. When the time comes,
time to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. Who are your favorite players, male or female, in the community? Give me 5.
Oh, gosh.
5. Just you like to watch. You like to play against.
Oh,
give me 3. 3. Let's make it easy.
I can name 3, 5, 10. I can go on. It's just hard to make that like list of I don't know who I'm going to say first.
Don't take any offense, anyone who doesn't have your name mentioned by this lady.
Well, Aru is my favorite Central player easily. That's my boyfriend.
Right.
But he was also my favorite player before. I was kind of a fangirl. But he's an amazing player. But it's not. I don't even care much about the character he plays. It's not that. It's like he did so much for the community, I think, and a lot of people, especially East Coast, and Jeff as well. When he was in California and still now, like he did Run and Rumble, which was like, I'm not a fan of online play, but like it's still part of the community. Like a lot of people are online players, and like putting together these like huge online tournaments is like, it's a game changer for the community. Like it brought a whole lot of people into the community and made them like interested in the game. So Jeff for that, and then Andrew, like he kind of did the same for like East Coast same show. He put together the Discord, he pressured people to come out to events, he played with anyone and everyone. Like he helped me run the 3v3 at ECT. So people like that, people who like give to the community, like any TO, I would say is probably my favorite person in the fighting community as well. But I guess in terms of maybe I can organize it like commentators. Rome is a really good commentator. I love Rome's commentary. He's extremely funny. He's good at the games he plays. He's great. Rome and Aru specifically are probably one of my favorite pairs. Ryan Hart and Andrew at Evo were also good commentators, I think. Yeah, but in terms of players too, I don't know. There's so many good players. It's hard. It's.
It's a lot
I think
of
back in the day, I could say back in the day when I first started playing, I really respected John Choi because he was like super educated, like had an amazing girlfriend, like really good at the game. He like won 2 Evo titles in 1 year. Like he's like the I don't know. He's just like the best person you can be. Like I just really respected him, and he seemed like an honest person, and he was always like a good person. So I really respected John Choi, and I think a lot of people would say that in NorCal especially.
Yes. Legend.
Yeah, he's legend too. He's good. He's good as well. But yeah, my answer, I guess, if it's fair, I'd say any TO, anyone contributing to the community in some way. People forget about the blood, sweat, and tears that go into that, and like it's a very thankless job sometimes. Usually you hear about the drama or the hate or someone getting angry about some decision or something, and then you don't hear about like there's no like TO appreciation day. There's no so just buy your TO like a coffee and a bagel and a pat on the back, and and just show appreciation if you can. I think they never can get enough appreciation for what they do. Yeah, I think content creators as well. Similarly, like I know Kelvin. Kelvin ran events. He was one of the people who went to San Jose State. He ran events. He's always had the FGC's best interest in mind. He's been in a position for a long time where he can make decisions that help benefit the FGC, and I think he's always done that.
Calvin Dion?
And
Is that the...
Mhm.
Okay, yes, he's very cool people.
Yeah. NorCal too, yeah. But he also has done, created content. He was super into cross-teching. People who like put their all in, to loving their game and like making sure people can have resources and the ability to appreciate with them.
Awesome. So this is like such like it's a lot that's going on in like what 15 years for you in terms of this community.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah. If you spend enough time, yes, it'll be quite the whirlwind, I think, of things to get involved in. If COVID wasn't an issue today, were there any plans you had in the community before COVID that got stunted that you would like to see come to fruition? Or like if COVID wasn't a thing now, what would you be doing, you think, within the community?
Well, the biggest thing I missed out on this year was Combo Breaker. That was just a plan that fell through, and I think a lot of people would feel that way. And other events, any other events. I do know that Sam Show, honestly speaking, we had Wednesday night fights in the Oakland Esports Arena. Mm-hmm. The turnouts for Sam Show had been declining, so that was disappointing. This was before COVID too, so it was disappointing. I don't know if it's more COVID or more the community already kind of declining. But I didn't feel like we were having as productive weeklies for Sam Show anymore. So I don't know if, depending on my work, because I've always been a real go-getter in my professional career. So like I've contributed a lot of my energy and time to my job. And so like, it depends on where I would be with my job, if I would have time outside to like go all in, like how Jeff does, like, and then just like make community events happen to try to pump some, blood back into the community, or just let it go because I don't, have the bandwidth to help contribute.
Sometimes you can do only what you can within your power, right? And if people mm-hmm. just aren't responding, you can't shoulder that responsibility by yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you have the bandwidth, you can help contribute in some way, and whether it's, streaming content creation, TOing, or just showing up to your weekly every week, all those things. But yeah, trying to keep Sam Show going, both with my play and then helping the community is something that I probably would have continued if it wasn't for COVID. And traveling more. So I really liked like the East Coast SNK community a lot. Like I didn't know anyone from there at all until Sam Show, and like I probably would be making more trips to New York or just that area, and just even going to weeklies there. Something I went to the poster actually behind me that I didn't know you could see when I set up my webcam, but it's cool that you can see it. Yes. That was Lunar Bout. That was the first time I went to Next Level.
Okay.
In New York. It was super cool. It reminded me of Keystone actually, because it's like there's like, if you go down in the basement, there's like random CRTs just like sitting on the floor. I don't know if they work or not. They're just there, and it's like crowded, and like everyone's just there like chilling, sweating together, and like playing fighting games. It's one of those like we had arcades like that too, like Southtown Arcade. They weren't like run by a chain. They were just like little tiny like holes in the wall or tiny card shops and stuff like that. I liked it there, and that's kind of like the FGC that I know is somewhere like that. And so I really like that, and traveling is kind of out of the question now for the time being, so I'm missing out on that as well.
Yeah, New York has always had that gritty, scene that like, laid back, don't trip over the CRT, it's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think NorCal is too, but I think people like Keystone was very much like that, but that was it was a session, it wasn't an arcade, or it was someone's house. But
will we see you in some future King of Fighters? Is that in the cards for you?
I don't want to say yes and be wrong.
For now, how do you feel about
Yeah,
it now? Like,
I
saying
feel
yes.
that. Okay, so if the 30 minutes that I spent practicing Bow and King combos in OTUM yesterday are any indicator of me staying in the game, the game felt. And I think most people say this about King of Fighters. It just feels faster. It's like Street Fighter but faster. That's how it feels to me. And again, like my play style, what I like is when I can slow the game down. I
Right.
don't know that is a character fit for me or a play style fit for me with that game.
Yeah,
And a lot of people have
that
been like, "Oh
game
yeah,
does not
yeah,
have a lot of slowdown. There's not many characters that can really control the pace. Everything's fast paced. Um,
yeah."
I mean, you are
But
playing Bao, which means that you and I cannot be friends because I hate that character.
I've learned that that's kind of the general sentiment. My boyfriend even feels that way, but I'm like, I don't know. He seems cool to me. He's like throwing balls. He's like becoming balls and like flying around. He reminds me of Blanca. I'm like, I don't know if his character is like. But again, like I have very very little time. I spent 30 minutes playing King of Fighters, so it's I can't say for sure, but yeah, if I pick up a game and started playing it seriously right now, fighting games, it would probably be Tekken again,
Yeah.
or I would try Street Fighter 5 maybe even. I don't know, like but or King of Fighters O2M right now in the short
Right.
term probably. What I really want is like. And I know it's greedy. And I know it's like because I bitch about like the net code and stuff. Like we need rollback. We need good net code because I want to play at home. I want to play at home and I want to play outside.
Right.
And it's like when a game finally has netcode, people are like, "Oh, it has netcode, you're not playing." Like Skullgirls has good netcode, you're not playing it. It's like, well, good netcode isn't the only requirement for me to have a game
Right.
that I really love. It's like, not a knock at Skullgirls or any other games, like KI and all that stuff. I did try KI as well, a little bit. But like not knock at those games. Like it's just like I like Street Fighter 4, I like Tekken, and those games particularly don't have good netcode. And so like what I would hope for is a game that comes out that is that has resources from the company, like from the developers, like they have support, like a new fresh game that people are going to be, the community is going to be bigger. People are going to be more excited about it. There's going to be more events for it, like something that's bigger and better and has good netcode. That's like what I'm hoping for and what I want. And I think a lot of people want that. But right now what we have is, some smaller games that have good netcode, and that's a starting point. And it's really good. It's really good for the King of Fighters players. Like everyone's playing it right now, so it's not just oh it's old, no one wants to play it. Like people still play Third Strike. People still play.
Of course,
some
I
other
would
stuff
still play
anyway.
Third Strike. That game's awesome.
Yeah, people will always play that game. but yeah, a supported game that has it's fresh and has good netcode. I don't know if that's going to be like the Riot Fighter. I don't know. I'm hoping it is. I don't know if I would like a Riot Fighter. I'm assuming I'll play it. I'm pretty sure I will.
I'm assuming as long as it's been talked about in development, it must be like potentially the best fighting game ever made if they're spending so much time like with this game. I feel.
Hopefully, I know good people are working on it. Like knowledgeable people, people who can build good netcode working on it. So I have high hopes for it. And I am a big League of Legends fan. So the characters might not be my favorite, but I think I'm already kind of in that Riot arena. So I'm interested
World.
in it. Huh?
You're in that Riot World already, that community.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I played a whole lot of Runeterra too, which a whole lot of that game. But yeah. I'm hopeful. But in the meantime, we don't have anything that I would call that level that I'm expecting or hoping for. So if I had to pick one game, I would probably mess around with King of Fighters OTM.
Nice. So what I find interesting in our discussion so far, well, up to this point, not a lot of talk about Tekken 7. Why is that?
I didn't play Tekken 7 much. I around it was Tekken 6 and then BR, and then I just kind of switched abruptly into like Street Fighter 4, and I played that the whole time. And then once I stopped playing Street Fighter 4, I just kind of skipped Tekken 7, or I skipped Tekken Tag too, and just didn't pick up 7. And it's really unfortunate. And it's not unfortunate. It's just kind of like a weird choice, I guess, because like I was really, really into Tekken 6 and 5, and then those games were not that big in the States. I don't consider them. They were some of the top level like fighting games. I guess they would have a spot at Evo.
Right.
finals and stuff like that. But like Tekken 7 is freaking huge in the States now, globally too. It was not just big in Korea; it's like big over here. It's one of the bigger fighting games over here. And that's like the time where I chose to stop playing it. So it's like it would have been smart for me to pick it up again and play more now, but I had so much going on that I just didn't want to take on another game.
Right.
But I think going back, if I might give it a try again.
Okay.
I did boot it up like a couple weeks ago, but I didn't spend much time. Just kind of soul searching, I guess, right now, figuring out what I want to dedicate the most time to. I don't like being spread thin across
That's a lot. You don't want to be that person at tournaments playing like 8 games.
Playing
Hold it up.
everything and just being like not focused on anything. Yeah, I like to
Being-
pick one thing and focus really hard on it. So
Being like a TO's nightmare logistically.
oh yeah.
You're playing too many games.
I'm playing Guilty Gear right now. I can't play on stage for Street Fighter or KOF or whatever. Like these people are playing like 8 different titles.
All right, just DQ me. Just DQ me. I don't care about that game. Just DQ me.
Yeah. I will never be that person. I'm definitely not good enough at every game to be that person, but I prefer to be more focused.
Yeah, it helps. You're too focused though. I think you need a second character sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Just one.
No, that is definitely a flaw. I tried doing that in Sam Show, at least. To my credit, I did try playing other characters. I messed around with others. I wouldn't say I was proficient at any other ones, but I did like spend time in training mode playing almost all the other characters.
Right, but you love who you love, and if that you find comfortability in that, and that's great. You know, who's to stop you? Moving forward, what are your thoughts about like just SNK doing? For me, I like the idea that SNK has reached out to the lower tier of the community, right? Like you have Capcom Cup, and they do these stops, provide prize money and pools to huge events, to get qualifiers. SNK took the route and did like the local. You could be a Joe Schmo out in Indiana with a shop, and they'll support your tournament. You just, write an email. What do you think about that? That they're really looking at that base, that foundation layer of players, and like helping out those little scenes with just a little, couple posters and stuff. I think it makes these scenes feel important and makes people want to come out. How do you feel about that?
It's good. I mean, any support's good, but I think they're smart in recognizing that FGC grew a lot through like grassroots efforts. It continues to, and especially like not small, but smaller than Capcom communities, like probably SNK games. They still get a lot of love. People still love those games, and just some support helps. So yeah, I think I would like to see a little more than like an XXXXL t-shirt and a poster, because that's what I usually get. I'm not trying to sound like ungrateful, but it's usually like we have these leftover Haramaru shirts that are like triple XL.
Send me one.
I have them. They're PJs for me, but no, I know I sound extremely ungrateful saying that. I know, but I want them, like, it would be cool to have like of course I'm gonna ask for more, like not more items, like you need to give like these little like materialistic things like posters and like t-shirts and stuff, right. But just like I guess I don't know what I'd ask for specifically. Like if they had like okay, I do know what to ask for specifically. I thought about it. Like the world championships. Like I feel like it was kind of not organized in a way that made any sense to me. Like the invites, the way they worked, and like a lot of the plans were kind of bogus and didn't make sense to me. Like so more like dedication and thought put into stuff like that goes a long way, because everyone who plays the game is looking forward to world championships, whether they're able to compete or spectate or be a part of the qualifiers process. Because me, like SF 25th anniversary, for example, like I didn't compete in that. I bet there was qualifying events which I did compete in, and those are fun, and everyone competed in them. And so even like the road to the big event, everyone can participate in some way. Having things like that build up, which is kind of what Capcom tries to do as well with the Capcom Pro Tour, I think. Like having something structured where like they're controlling and supporting the community in that way, I think is preferred, but it has to be done right, and it has to be done with a lot of thought put into it. Probably more the World Championship, the SNQ World Championship thing was. So yeah, I'd like to see like, a little more polish there.
Yeah, that was a weird selection process. It's like kind of like Oprah Winfrey, like look on your chair, you got an invite, like yay, and I was like, huh, what? Well, I didn't get an invite.
Yeah, I think it was mostly like, I don't want to get too into it, but yeah, this is just some decision making that like it was disheartening and confusing to me.
I don't think it's intentional. I think it was unfamiliarity. I think that's what it was, like with certain scenes and players and stuff like that. And I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and not to blame, whoever at SNK is making the decisions. It's just, I know this little support sometimes from these companies to, and I've worked positions related to esports my last 3 jobs. And sometimes it's a matter of one person who has like a different job being dragged into this thing and saying, hey, make this happen in 3 weeks. Like that happens a lot. And so like, I wouldn't, blame someone for not doing their best and just not making it up to the community's expectations. But that's a bigger problem. That's like, we need to hopefully have these decision makers recognize that like the community is very important to this, to all esports and all fighting game players, and help us foster that by giving us the resources to do it, and making great events for us.
Awesome. Yes, it's all very important. Before we go, I just want to ask you real quick, who has been like just influence you to get you to this point in life, and like just the overall, the things you do for esports on the side, or you have done in the past, any motivation to just get involved? Like, are there any figures that like people who like you want to give a shout out to, who like just really motivated you along the way? I know you probably, it's probably names you mentioned earlier on, but just to be clear, like
Carolyn Dow. Okay. She came into the community much later than me, but she took steps forward that I was afraid to take, like becoming a TO and like running all this stuff. And the level of dedication that she's had since day one and today has been just like beyond what I see from a lot of people. And she's from our area too. She's from NorCal too. So, I've been able to see like firsthand like how much effort she's put into building our community. We all benefit from that. She's a kind person. She cares about the community. So Carolyn, absolutely. She's the person that comes to mind, first of all. Like all the women that are competing as well, people who are TOing again. I'd say Kelvin again for our community, the San Jose area especially, and Jeff Aru. Basically the same people before. They've inspired, and also personally for me, like anyone who's like made me feel like I can do something. So instead of like telling me like, or pressuring me not to try, not to do something, like people who have put pressure on me to move forward and take it to the next level, like people who've supported me, I guess. Obviously I feel that. And I could say it's most of the San Jose community, like Julio, Kelvin, all those guys I went to school with. And it's been a while, but there's too many names. Our community is so strong and big, but during the Street Fighter time, like those people would always have each other's back. It was like family, and that's kind of what I look for. It's kind of what I found again in Sam Show, but just people who like support each other, kind of thing. And it's like a super general answer. It probably didn't answer anything,
that's
but
fine.
My answer is the community. But just the people who have just supported,
Awesome. One more question. I did forget to ask this earlier on. Where does Super Yan come from?
Oh gosh, Super Yan. Okay, so Yan comes from this game called Tomba. It's a PlayStation 1 platformer with this pink-haired caveman character.
Yes.
That, like fights these pigs. Some people might not know it. It's very old.
Yeah.
I played it when I was like a kid. And there's it's not like my favorite game in the world, but it was a game that stuck with me. It was a very good game when I was a kid. I played it a lot. I liked it. There was a side quest character where like named Yan, and he was like this like caveman kid, and you had to like find. He played hide and seek with you throughout the game, and you had to like find him and give him his lunch from his like parents or something. And so, again, like I didn't particularly love this character a lot, but it was just the fact that my sibling, like when we'd go to the arcade as kids or like play anything as kids, their name is 4 letters long. It would fit on most high score screens. You get a high score, and it's like you put in your name, and it's like 3 characters or 4 characters.
Right. Yeah.
And my name is Miranda. It's 7 characters. So I could never fit Miranda. I didn't like Mira or like Mirror, or I didn't like my initials. So I'm like, I wish I had a name that was short. That'd be so cool. So like Yan is 3 letters long. It's short, and it sounded cool to me as a kid. So I was like, I'll use that name. I don't know. So it must have been like at least close to 20 years now I've been using that handle. Okay. So, but Super Yan at Devastation 2009, I was on Tekken Zaibatsu. I'm Yan. I think on SRK I might also be Yan, because back in the day I was still Yan. But it was a Devastation 2009, I think it was. There was another person who entered. It was a Guitar Hero tournament that I entered alongside Tekken, also named Yan. And I was like, there's 2 Yans in the bracket. Did they duplicate mine, or is there another person here named Yan? Like, who's who? And that person never showed up, and it was confusing as hell. And then this guy, I got some time playing Tekken on stream. It was during casuals, and I think the really, really good players were sitting in the back, like drinking or chilling, because all these people who came up to play me were like they're like kind of beginner level. I don't know. I had a really big win streak. And so the people who were watching were commentating on it, and they weren't like super knowledgeable about Tekken either. It was like Swoozy and DJ Wheat. Or like more like esports names now, but like they were commentating on it, and they kept calling me like Super Duper Yan, like, oh, this isn't Yan, this is like Super Duper Yan. I was like, it's kind of corny, but at the time I was feeling like it would be cool to not have my name Yan with that other person there. So from then on I just started going as Super Yan.
Nice.
It's also because Yan's taken very often. It's a common name, especially in China and Japan. Like it's an actual name. It's not like a character name. So right. Oftentimes it won't be available. And then there's trolls that'll take Super Yan too sometimes. Like Rising Thunder, I tried on like the first day to play Rising Thunder, and Super Yan was taken already. And I was like, really? Like, really? I think someone did that on purpose. like
Super Yan's left boot or something. Like,
yeah. So I have to get on like really quick when there's a beta for something, so before some troll takes my name. I don't think I'm popular enough for anyone to care about doing that anymore. But at the time, I was like, I hope someone didn't steal my name. but yeah, that's where it came from. It's not super interesting, but
it was a great
came from
story.
Tomba.
We would have never known. Now we know.
Yeah, I remember specifically one of the first fighting games I played. Also, I was trying to rent Tomba at Blockbuster, and the kid behind the counter, didn't read the title very well, I guess, and he put Tobal #1.
Oh.
I don't know if anyone's heard of this game.
Of
it's
course.
A fighting game.
Yeah, it's from Squaresoft.
Okay. I hadn't heard of it. I had heard of Mortal Kombat at the time and Street Fighter, but I didn't know what Tobal #1 was. I don't even remember who makes the game. But it was
Square
in
Enix.
there. So we get home.
Square Enix makes it, or Square
Enix.
At the time. Yeah.
Oh wow, that. Either way, we get home. I'm excited to play Tomba, get farther, and we open the disc, and it's like Tobal #1. What the hell is this? We put it in, we play. We could play everything. We put it in, we play it, and I'm like, I don't like this fighting game. I remember not liking it at all. We took it back, and we had never played it again. But that was my experience. I'm sorry, Square Enix.
No, that's cool. Oh man, that's awesome. Oh man. Well, thank you so much for indulging us today. We really appreciate it. I appreciate my time talking with you today. I just want to thank you for just coming on the show and blessing us with your story. Any last words? Anything you want to say? Any words of advice?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for doing this. I'm going to go back and watch all the episodes. I know you guys did one with Andrew. I'm excited to see, and future ones as well. Like, I think you guys did a lot, and you guys helped me with the tournament as well that we did at ACT. You were also on that list of people, I think, for producing content and helping with tournaments. So, but yeah, I don't know much else to add. I mean, I just hope people stay and play, when we're able to play together again, hope the community still stands. I think it will. I think it will, but I just hope it's can be bigger and better.
Right. I mean, we go through our cycles, but I think we'll come back just as strong, if not stronger. How can we reach you on social media if we want to chat with you or say hi?
So all my socials are super_Yan. Twitter and Instagram, mostly Twitter, is 2 underscores because Super Yan is taken. So super__Yan is my @ I'm very active on Twitter, and that's probably the best way to reach me. I don't have a YouTube or anything like that. I do stream on Twitch occasionally at super_Yan. I'm probably going to pick that up a bit more, during COVID, I guess. But yeah, those are my socials. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Miranda, for coming on today and taking the
time
out to chat with us. And for the rest of you guys, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And we will see you next time on KPBCast. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
This has been a KPB Media Works production.